Honor, you had Marcus inside a phony transfer. Your Honor, you doctored the logbook. Damn it, Captain! You coerced the doctor.
Consider yourself in contempt.
Colonel Jessup, did you order the code red?
You don't have to answer that question.
I'll answer the question. You want answers? I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth! You can't handle the truth!
Oh, now I'm sad.
Welcome into Rip City Retro. My name is Rich Finley. I'm joined here, as sometimes, by Eric Brandt. Eric, it's good to see you.
Good to see you, Rich. I put at number 5, the trading of promising young players. So I have the main two to me are, of course, the Jermaine O'Neal trade in 2000 for Dale Davis.
Make something happen. Jermaine! Oh, baby, I love it.
Moves to the foul line, to the dotted line on a right-hand stuff. Nobody picked him up.
We had just come off that Western Conference Finals appearance, and instead of giving Jermaine O'Neal a chance to step up and play a bigger role, we ended up trading him for a veteran, Dale Davis, and Dale was okay, but he just was not what the Blazers needed in a center. And
had you won the year before, you probably are more patient with Jermaine.
Yep.
You know, you don't make that knee-jerk reaction like, we've got to have 6 more fouls to go up against Shaq kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. And you'd heard in practices that he was, like, people like Scottie Pippen would say that he was their best player and stuff, and just Michael Dunleavy refused to play him. They had signed him or re-signed him after his rookie contract with kind of a promise of a bigger role, and they didn't end up fulfilling that promise, and then they just ship him off for Dale Davis. And you always wonder, if they kept Jermaine, could he have helped? Because it was a relatively older roster with Pippen and Damon Stoudemire and Steve Smith and all those guys, Rasheed. Could he have helped maybe that team stay relevant longer?
Stretch their run just a little bit,
for another year or two. So
that and
was.
I bet I know your other one.
The other one is Drazen Petrovic being traded, and similar thing. So he shows out in the playoffs the year before.
Robinson, left of the circle, going to drive. Leaves it for Petro. Turn, stop, shoots. Hit! And to Danny Young. Danny on a drive over the timeline. Plays the need to score to get it to Petro. Petro for 3. Yes! For 3! Rip City. He called for the ball and drilled that baby. It's 42-30 for him. A timeout called by a 20-second timeout called by Dallas. Over guard, full exchange to Jerome. Over to Buck Williams. Over Herb Williams on his way. No good. Rebound, Buck Williams. Took it away from Orlando. Back to Drazen for 3. Yes! Petrovic! He goes back up the floor with that fist in the air. Up 3. 51-48. That's the score now. 51-48. Harper, left corner, no! Offensive foul.
And then what do we do to reward him or to develop him? We sign someone at the same position, so he gets very little minutes and gets mad and requests a trade, right? So,
well, when you say sign, do you mean going out and getting Danny Ainge?
Yeah, trading for Danny Ainge, sorry. But so once again, 90s, we have this player that, you know, at times helped us get to where we wanted to go in the finals. And instead of
had been more of a contributor than Jermaine O'Neal had been. Yeah.
Like how would it have worked out if you just let him? Because Drexler. I mean, we were really freaking good that year, which we'll get to in a minute, I'm sure, for you as well.
Don't jump to conclusions of my top 5.
But it was like, well, why didn't we give him a chance? And he goes to the Nets and flourishes and looks like he's going to be on his way to being a superstar. And I won't get into the death part and all that stuff, which was super unfortunate.
Just had a tragic car accident in the summer of 1993, and just those little ripple effects. Like if he's not traded away from Portland, maybe he's not in that car at that. I mean, you just never know. Yeah.
And I just felt like, even though, we had some success with Ainge, you just wonder, same sort of thing. Could that have been the reason why we didn't get over the top if Drazen was getting, 25, 30 minutes a game as the third guard, or, we could move Clyde to small forward at times and play them both together. If you would have just developed that out, could that have led to a more dominant team than it was, being the best Blazer team ever that year? It just seeing how little the Blazers seemed to care about developing him, just never really sat right for me. And then and there's a couple other small ones, like Brian Grant we also traded for Sean Kemp. It was kind of sign and trade, but we also didn't really show him love. And then unfortunately for him, he gets
Parkinson's, I think.
Parkinson's, yeah. So his career is cut short as well. But yeah, just like some of those players that helped us get somewhere in previous years and provided some of that spark, and then we just kind of threw them to the wayside after
it's kind of like our announced teams going all the way back to number 10. Those, I mean, I agree. Drazen, our fan in the Philippines who just commented on one of the most recent videos, he was like, I would really like you to talk more about Sabonis and Drazen Petrovic. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, well, hopefully we'll be able to do that for you in the next video. Drazen was, I mean, being 3,000 miles away at the time in West Virginia, it's not like I ever heard anything bad about Drazen or the team had soured on Drazen or anything like that. I think Drazen just wanted, I don't even think a bigger role. I just think Drazen didn't want to be diminished with Ainge coming in. And look, the Blazers were great with Ainge. I mean, Ainge gave them a real moxie, around the league that maybe they didn't have. But go ahead.
Well, I mean, yes, that's true. Ainge had that,
But Drazen had that.
That's what I'm saying. Like, he goes to the Nets and he's talking crap to Michael Jordan and like backing it up and stuff, and just like, like, you want to talk about exciting, like 3-point shooters, like that wasn't like really a thing back then at the time. There weren't a lot of like even the big scorers like Clyde and MJ didn't shoot a ton of threes or anything. So like he could have had that moxie. And I think that's, from his perspective, he was like, wait a minute, I played really well. I'm young. I'm on the come up. Like, they don't believe in me. Like that doesn't make sense. So, and then that happened, I believe, with Jermaine as well. It's like, I'm playing really well in practice. I'm doing everything I can to get on the court, and you're not giving me an opportunity to show that in an actual game as much as I feel like I deserved. And then not only do we trade both of them, but we don't basically get anything for them when all's said and done. So that's the worst part too, is like, it's not like we got a bunch of future first round picks or something to show for it. We got, Walter Davis, and he was, I know that's a curse word for you, right? A trigger word for you as Walter Davis. But so it's not like we got players that even did anything or provided anything.
Well, it's the old mortgaging. It's the old mortgaging the future for a rental, right? I mean, I don't think anybody thought Ainge was only going to play 2 seasons here, right? But he ends up leaving the team in 92, 93 to go join up with Barkley in Phoenix when Barkley got traded to the Suns. And actually, Ainge had a better year that first year in Phoenix than he ever had the other 2 years that he was in Portland. Yep. His statistics were off the charts that first season in Phoenix. So, I mean, you end up trading guys and just really hurting your development for the future going forward. So yeah, this is a good one. I didn't know how to necessarily encapsulate this as a pick, so I didn't make this one of my picks, but I really like it. So that's your number 5.
What's your number 5?
As you get a little bit older, like you and I are, you really recognize in life that sometimes there are just watershed moments that you can feel it happen in the moment. You're like, oh wow, things are never going to be the same. Like this is an opportunity. It's a moment in time, and if we don't seize this opportunity, this may never come back around again in this current setup. And I'll share just a little bit of this so the viewers know where I'm coming from. June the 10th was the 8-year anniversary of I had a really bad car accident 8 years ago. I was hit by a drunk driver here in Los Angeles at like 3 o'clock in the afternoon. It was the craziest day, a drunk driver on the 405. I ended up, injuring my back really badly. I ended up having double level spinal fusion. But I got 5 different eye disorders from it. So that's why I wear glasses. And then I got a very rare condition called triplopia, which just means I see 3 of everything at all times, which is really crazy. And by the way, it's an insane way to shoot hoops. It's just, you're just like
LeBron, shoot for the middle one.
It is. By the way, thank you for that. That when he was playing that whole diva thing of I was seeing 3 of the rim, I was like, no, I see 3 of the rim. Okay, it's a permanent condition. You have no idea.
I put in a lot of work in my game. After drape my finger to the eye, I was literally seeing 3 rims out there. So I just shot at the middle one, and I was able to the grace of the man above, I was able to knock it down.
When in doubt, go for the middle rim.
It was so funny to me. And so triplopia, if you have it, it's actually a neurological condition. So it's not an eye disorder, it's a brain disorder. So I see the image normally, and then it gets unpacked in my brain, and it tells me that I'm seeing 3 of everything. So those are just things that I've lived with for the last 8 years. And then I recently, had an incident and had a fall, and I injured my elbow really badly, and now I'm having different back trouble. and now I have tinnitus really badly. I was telling you that before the podcast. Like on a tinnitus is the really loud sound that people hear. Most of us get it as we get older, but I never had it before. And then I had this slip and fall on a faulty set of stairs at this stairwell at a shopping center here in Los Angeles. And it just broke away on me, banged my head. And so now I have like this permanent ringing in my ears. And so like I've had just like all of this crap like dumped on me, right? All of this kind of weaves in to me of my number 5, because there are things in life that happen to us where this moment happens and then things are never the same again. And even if you can put the pieces back together, you had this window of opportunity. So when I had my car accident in 2015, right? So I'm an actor. I've mentioned that on the podcast before that I'm an actor. I haven't really pimped my stuff or anything like that. I showed the one little commercial in the fake Skip ad that I did, but I haven't really talked about my acting stuff, but I'm just like a journeyman actor. I've done a lot of commercials and some indie projects and stuff like that. But I did a movie in late 2014 that came out in 2016. So I had my car accident in 2015. Well, when the movie came out in 2016, I had a good sized part in it, and it was a movie called The Midnight Man. If anybody cares in the Philippines, you can watch it. But anyway, so I had a really good part in it. I did a good job in it, I guess, and got some good feedback on it. And from that, I got calls to meet with a director that people would know about a lead part in a film, like an action comedy movie. that would have been like this big launch pad career moment kind of thing. And the meeting was scheduled like 2 months after my spinal surgery. So I'm like limping and hobbling to the meeting and trying to act like I'm okay, you know. But I was honest with the director too when we sat down. I was like, "Hey, I just had spinal surgery. I'm gonna be okay." You know, I wasn't okay. It took like 2.5 years to recover from the spinal surgery, but that was my opportunity, right? Like that was my moment in time. Like all these stars had aligned, and I had done a part in a movie that got people's attention, and then I had this meeting, and then I lost that opportunity because I was hurt. And I mean, that was kind of a, you know, you have to be ready for the opportunities that come your way. And I wasn't, because I was hurt. And I don't share that or like talk about what my injuries are or stuff like that for anybody to feel sorry for me. I mean, look, I get up here and do videos, and I do Rip City Retro extra videos where I'm acting like an idiot all the time and try to be funny and put a positive spin on things and stuff like that, because I just feel like that's the way that you should try to live your life. And I also think that once you live long enough and once you go through enough stuff, that you realize, and that's kind of what we're talking about this list for today, is like, if you can't find something to laugh about, like Drexler putting a curse on the team in 2001, something like that. Like if you can't find little glimpses of joy or stuff that's funny while you're going through tough times, like, you know, life is going to be a lot tougher to get through. So I share this story about myself. Number one, like I said, there's not a lot of people watching, and people getting to this point in the video, or it's going to be like your mom, your wife, like my girlfriend. Like, it's just going to be a few people that are going to get to this point in the video. But if anybody watches our stuff, and I'm sure you have your own stuff and your own challenges that you've been through as well, things like that, you don't have to share them. But if anybody sees us up here, like laughing and carrying on and saying, you have a good perspective or things like that, it's not because we haven't been through stuff. Right. It's just, it is possible to see the bright side of things and see the bright side of depressing situations. Even if the Blazers, you know, make all the wrong moves this summer and stuff like that, it'll suck and we will totally rage on a podcast, I promise you. But at the same time, you know, we'll find some way to, you know, laugh about it, commiserate together about it, stuff like that. So all of that leads me into, I just wanted to talk a little bit at some point in the video today about pain and painful moments, and how pain is actually not a bad thing. It's actually a good thing, because it can show you how much you really care about this stuff. So all of that to say, number 5 for me is Jusuf Nurkic's injury in 2019. First and foremost, I'll tell you mine in a second, but where were you when this injury happened? Were you watching the team at the time? I mean, I know you were a fan of the team at the time, obviously, but I mean, were you watching that game when the injury happened?
Yeah, watching the game on my TV at home. It was in overtime, right?
Double overtime. Yeah.
And Nurk was playing heavy minutes. There was, I forget if it was at the end of the fourth quarter or the end of the first overtime. Seth Curry missed a free throw or something, and we would have won and avoided taxing minutes for the big guy. Ripple effect, like you said.
Sure.
Yeah.
How many minutes do you think he played that game? I know the answer.
I want to say it was at least 40, right?
32. Oh, no, 34. 34 minutes.
I thought it was 40.
I know.
Or maybe it was like it was going to be 40 if he finished the game. I don't remember.
I looked up his so he got injured in the second overtime with 2 minutes and 22 seconds left. Now, I was our washer dryer was out, so we were using a laundromat at the time. And so I was following the game on my ESPN, you know, just the ESPN app, following the score. And I'll never forget, on it, it said Jusuf Nurkic offensive rebound. And then it sat there for 10 minutes. And I'm looking, and I'm like, is something wrong? Like, and I'm clicking over to NBA.com. Same thing. Yusuf Nurkic offensive rebound. And I'm at this laundromat, and I kid you not, I just got a sinking feeling in the pit of my stomach. And I was like, God, I hope he's not hurt. I can't explain why I thought that. And then the very next thing that I saw was someone probably, Myers or whatever. And Myers Leonard replaces Yusuf Nurkic or Ennis, like whichever. And I just immediately was like, oh, God, I think he got hurt. And I later, when the highlights came out online and you watch the footage, and just a horrific, gruesome injury.
DeMo has a step, drives in on Carroll. Power drive, no. Followed by Nurk, no. Nurk knocked to the floor and a foul. And Nurkic is in pain. And Nurk is down. And the left leg buckled, and Nurk is down, and he is in considerable pain, and he has a serious injury.
I'll never forget seeing the players' reaction, and in particularly Dame. To me, I have this image seared in my head of Dame leaning on the scorer's table, or maybe even sitting up on it. And first and foremost, these guys are human beings, right? So, there's genuine concern for your friend. Dame and Nurk call each other brothers. Dame calls Nurk his big little brother, but they were really close. They are really close, really tight. And so obviously there's concern for your teammate and what he's going through and what this means for his career moving forward. But there also was the collective, the air going out of the balloon of the team, because you just felt like, because we had just went through this in 2015 with Wes, right? Mm-hmm. And I know that that's coming up for you soon, but we spend all this time like working so hard to get to this point. And I remember when I saw Dame on that scorer's table, I just had a brief little like, oh God, I know what that's like. Like that we've worked so hard to get to this point, to have this opportunity, because people may not remember, but at that point, much like when Wes got hurt, they were really rolling. Mm-hmm. Like they had just traded for, Rodney Hood. They had gotten Enes Kanter.
Finally had a bench.
Finally had a bench. They did some interesting things playing Nurk and Kanter together a couple of times. They look so good and so deep. And again, Collins too. And they were starting to, again, like in 2015, become like this dark horse, possible contender. And the Warriors were having issues with Durant being a little hurt that regular season. And then, of course, what ended up happening in the playoffs, Durant didn't even play the series that the Blazers ended up playing against Golden State in the Western Conference Finals. And we talked about that earlier in the pod. But Nurkic was I don't care what anybody says. I love Nurk. If Nurk ever leaves the Blazers, I'll be sad to see him go. I really like him as a person. But as a force, in my opinion, and I could be wrong, but I feel like Nurk has never been the same since that injury, because as he rehabbed, he came back pretty quickly. He came back in the bubble in 2020, and then we're having the COVID year the following year, where he's trying to get his feet up under him, and then he's facing a lot of scrutiny from people about him finishing around the basket and all of his finishing stats and things of that nature. And the guy was still coming off a horrific injury, and I just felt like he was the Blazers' second best player that season when he went down. He was third in scoring. CJ was second in scoring, obviously, but I felt like he was their third best player. The game that he went out, Eric, 13 of 24 from the field, 6 of 8 from the free throw line, 16 rebounds, 5 assists, 2 steals, 4 blocks, 1 turnover, a plus minus of 12, but plus 12, 32 points in 34 minutes. And this was happening regularly and consistently. He was having more and more dominant games, and it just I loved what happened in the playoffs. I loved the fact that they had picked up Cantor previously, because you felt like, okay, well, at least we have a big who could score around the basket, et cetera, but you just kind of felt like whatever apex was going to be for the Blazers that season completely went away when Nurkic got hurt. And if the Blazers had been able to beat the Warriors in the Western Conference Finals, you move on to play Toronto in the NBA Finals. It literally could have been Dame's championship. And that's why it makes my number 5, because my own personal connection to it and kind of feeling that moment of missed opportunity, when opportunity meets, whatever the saying is. So that's why it's number 5 for me.
Yeah. This might surprise you, but I did not have it on my list.
Wow, really?
And it's not.
Did it cross your mind? Or
well, it kind of crossed my mind. Yeah. I think ultimately I just decided, since they did have their most successful season with Dame that season anyway, it's still a big what if we're talking about like biggest what ifs is probably a slightly different conversation.
Sure.
But yeah, it was more, I just felt so bad for Nurkic because, like you said, he was playing so well and
it seemed
really
like he figured so many things out. Yeah.
And you knew it was just one of those injuries where even if you had the best recovery ever, and it's hard to ever fully trust your leg again, as I'm sure you're going through with some of your injuries. And I'm
like the operation board. I'm
right.
just like all the different things on it.
But yeah, it was just the right words were it just took the wind out of the sails, man. It was such a bummer. And they went on, and I believe at the end of that season, CJ hurt his knee too, and
yes,
he ends up coming back relatively quickly. It looked really bad at the time too, so it looked like it was just going to be another one of those seasons where frickin' injuries, man.
I forgot about that. I forgot about the little brief CJ injury. That's right. Yeah.
But the team manages to tread water.
Well, they were set. There were 9 games to go in the season when this injury happened. So the team ended up going 7-2 down the stretch. I mean, they finished the season well.
Yeah, but I'm talking about when CJ got hurt, they managed to be okay with that because of some of their additions like Rodney Hood and stuff. So, but the 2 injuries together, they still find a way to get the 3rd seed. And they tried not to get the 3rd seed, remember?
Oh, yeah, they were trying to duck. Yeah.
And Anthony Simon scores, 37 points or something in the final game, and they erase a huge deficit and come back, and they were trying to avoid the Oklahoma City Thunder, but turns out that's why I don't like trying to handpick opponents, because sometimes it just works out better.
Absolutely,
to just go head on and be confident against whoever you play.
The basketball gods do not like that, Eric.
But that was just such a devastating moment. And then the stupid ref kicks his foot when he's on the ground. Come on, man.
I know. I just remember Jared Dudley's reaction for Brooklyn, and all that stuff. It was devastating.
It was, and that's it goes back to the Odin one. It's just instantly that it's over. And,
Oh, and you also know, these moments you feel like, oh God, this just becomes another moment in our history that people are going to cite so on and so forth. I mean, it becomes like, oh no, the Blazer big man curse thing, so on and so forth. I mean, it's such a drag. Well, let's move on to number 4. Thank you for indulging me and letting me share just a little bit. I just
thank you for sharing.
Yeah, sure. I
knew most of your story from the injuries, but it's
good to
get that all out for the audience.
Yeah, we've talked about it before, and I don't know. I just wanted to share it with people. So I am going to predict we have the exact same thing at number 4. I will tell you if I'm right or not. But what is your number 4? Wow, I'm totally wrong. Wrong. Okay.
What do you think it was?
I'm not going to say because I don't want to ruin it. You better have this on your list. So let's go to your number 4. So what could you possibly be talking about?
Game 1, 1992 NBA Finals. Michael Jordan. This frickin' guy. Dude, okay. Let me just set this up, okay?
Yes, please.
I looked up his stats for the season, okay?
Okay. Oh, God, yeah.
The entire playoffs, the whole playoffs, 3 rounds prior to this.
Yes.
Michael Jordan made 5 3-pointers in 3 rounds, right?
Yes.
Okay. During the season.
Let's see. Swept the Miami Heat in 3, beat the New York Knicks in 7, and then beat the Cleveland Cavaliers in 6. So that's 16 playoff games.
Yes.
5-3.
Okay. 5 threes, right? Okay.
Yes.
So I went back to the regular season, right?
Okay.
He shot 100 threes the entire season. 100 threes, right? Do you know how many he made?
27.
27 threes the entire season. This dude played 80 games. So that's like what? Like a little over 1 every 4 games? Like,
yes, something like that. Yeah.
Like one every 4 games. Like not like
I think 1 every 3 games. Yeah.
Not 4 like every 1 game. Like this is different era. Yes, I get it, right?
And taking just a little over 1 a game.
Right. Yeah. Like he doesn't even shoot them, right? Like he's getting to the rim and like he's the most incredible like scorer that I've ever seen personally, but like he could not be stopped, but he did not shoot threes. Like it just was not part of his game unless it was like the end of a game or he had to get a 3 or into the shot clock type of thing. So this guy, this mother effer, he hits 6.
Well, hang on. Before you do this, before the finals, he was being asked in like one of those media scrums.
Yeah.
They were
in the Last Dance.
Oh, this is you against Clyde. How would you compare you and Clyde? And Jordan, to his credit, was basically saying, "Oh, we're very similar."
Well, Clyde is somewhat of a mirror of me in a sense. I mean, he's so versatile. He plays offense, he plays defense. He's good with assists. He can score. So you got to respect him in all areas of basketball. I'm just going to try to contain him as much as possible. Try to force him to shoot the outside shot, as most people try to force me to shoot the outside shot, and force him to his weaker hand, which is left. And that's what people do to me. So hopefully it can work against him.
And then one of the reporters said, well, what about 3-point shooting? Seems like Drexler shoots 3 a lot better than you do. And Jordan was like, well, that's because Clyde takes so many. If I took more, I would do more. So anyway, go ahead.
Yeah. And then, of course, everything was personal to him, right? Like every little thing was a slight. That's how the elite ones do it. I get it. But this guy hits 6 freaking threes in game 1. And not only in game 1, all in the first freaking half. Are you kidding me, Rich? Yeah. 6 threes in the first half.
Yeah.
He scored more threes in the first half than he made the entire playoffs to that point. He was a 27% 3-point shooter that year. And this guy hits 6 threes and does the little just hitting.
I don't know, just on fire. Yeah.
You got to show it. I'm sorry, you have to show it, but.
Jordan for 3. Yes! That is an NBA Finals record. The steal by Pippen. the pressure, the steals, the transition game, and then Pippen taking it to the hole. Michael following it back up again, throws it down. He feels it. There's nothing else he can say other than the man feels it and lets us know.
Oh my goodness.
Sets an NBA Finals record of 35 points in the first half. This is after the Blazers came out on fire, hit their first 7 shots.
I know they were playing good too. Like
Drexler had an amazing look. Since I have to show the Jordan 3, I have to show the Drexler dunk in traffic, including with Jordan right there early in the game. I'll go ahead and show that because, you know, we got to have that too.
Lost the dribble off his foot. 3-on-2 for the Blazers. Drexler all the way. Clyde Drexler at his best in the open floor, hitting for his 3rd field goal.
I watched the game. So obviously, look, growing up in a small town in Princeton, West Virginia, I was the only Blazer fan in town.
Yeah.
So I watched the game with a Bulls fan.
Sorry.
And that hurt. It was really bad. I couldn't believe it. I mean, that was a part of Jordan's game that you tried to sucker him into taking long outside shots. The book on him was try to keep him perimeter oriented. You really didn't want him going to the basket. Now, obviously, you know, as he got older, when he stepped away from the game and then when he came back and as his athleticism, I mean, he was always an elite athlete, but as his freakish athleticism dissipated a little bit, you know, then he became the master of the mid-range and stuff like that. But this was when, you know, you really wanted Michael shooting threes. And then he never had another 3-point shooting game like that again in the finals. So yeah, that was.
I mean, he didn't really have a game like that in his whole career.
Yeah, that's true too. So for you, so this is number 4. So is number 4 the finals or is it game 1?
I mean, I couldn't put the finals on there twice, so it's just the whole thing. Yeah, but that moment was the worst moment. The shrug is the moment that stands out. But obviously, if you have this on your list still.
Oh, it's here. It's here. Well, yeah,
we can talk about what happened. Was it game 5 or game 6 when we had the lead in Chicago? So when we get to
it's game 6.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, you can talk about that when we get to your part of this.
Yeah, I have a good take about that. Yeah, we'll get to that. So okay, so my number 4, it's a moment, but it encapsulates a whole thing, okay? Number 4 is the double nickel by one Damian Lillard.
Oh, okay.
In 2021 against the Nuggets. And the Blazers, so the Blazers go into Denver in that playoff series. And by the way, I was just so tickled that playoff series started in June. It was so much fun to be like, there are Blazer playoff games in June. It doesn't matter that COVID moved everything to where the first round was in June. I lied to myself a little bit. I was like, look at the date and look at the Blazers playing in the NBA playoffs. But Lillard, I never thought that I would see something out of Lillard like the 50-point game against Oklahoma City that we touched on earlier in game 5. And that's, again, it's that series ended with one of the biggest, just Sam Cassell ball dance shots that you've ever seen, with Dame taking that shot from that far out. That all started back in 2018 by getting swept, by the way, because he had to take shots from further and further out. But I never thought we would see a performance like that out of Dame again. I thought that was a once in a lifetime kind of performance.
Well,
what? Go ahead.
I'll just say it wasn't necessarily because you didn't believe Dame had it in him, but it's just in the playoffs, defenses are so designed to stop him, and they've been so successful when they have geared on him. That's no disrespect to Dame.
And also because the situation called for it. You had CJ get 3 fouls, like I think in the first quarter or something like that. So, you know, it was kind of the situation facilitated Dame needing to go supernova, especially in that first half. So it wasn't like I didn't think he was capable, but I just thought, and also it was the encapsulation. It was the, you know, it was the cherry on the sundae of the 3-pointer that finished them off, that puts him at 50, et cetera, et cetera. I thought that was like one of the most amazing performances I ever saw. But Eric, in 2021, that Game 5 at Denver was like, I think Kevin Durant tweeted during the game, and he said, "This is a spiritual experience." As Dame was hitting these threes.
Be free with that mid-range.
And boy, has the 22-year-old answered the bell tonight. Lillard on a triple.
Telling him to get out of his way.
Lillard on a 3. And he hits.
Oh my goodness.
Damian Lillard, the late game assassin.
And that really kind of offsets what Dame has done here.
Lillard, he'll have a chance at 3. Does Lillard have some more late game magic up his sleeve? Gets it back, launches deep 3, split. He has done everything right. He leaves the door open. Lillard, he is a killer. Here he comes again. Lillard steps back, fires, banks it in again.
Oh my goodness. I cannot believe what I'm witnessing here, partner.
Damian Lillard ties it. 3 seconds. Rivers. And effective against Jokic defensively on the season. Lillard just keeps on coming. How does Denver slow this guy down? Lillard launches. He bites.
And I remember, like, you know, I talked earlier about watching the Brandon Roy game and getting like really emotional watching that. I felt very similar watching this game. I was shaking. It was so amazing to me what I was watching. And I was feeling like, please don't let us lose this game. Like this is the kind of game that can look like, what more could I do? You know, what more can I do? You know, he got 2 points, I think, off of a Cantor putback in the 2 overtimes. Like that was the only support that he got. I mean, it was just, I don't think I've ever, and I mean, this is probably hyperbole on my part because I'm a Blazers fan, I'm a Dame fan, all of that. But I don't feel like, to me, there's no better encapsulation of seeing a guy's heart laid out there on the court by what he was giving, what he was accomplishing. The 1-3 that he made at the end, probably, I think it was the second 3 in the first overtime to tie that game, to tie it up, to go into the double overtime. He got fouled on that. That should have been a 4-point play.
It should have won right there.
That should have ended the game. And, you know, even though they only went down 3-2 with that loss, it was over. Like, you just felt like, could they come home and win Game 6 and go back to Denver and win Game 7 just like they did in 2019? Sure, it was feasible. But as you got into Game 6 and Denver started to, you know, pour it on and pull away from Portland in the second half, that Game 5 performance and loss just got bigger and bigger in terms of the painful moment that it was. Because I've just never seen a guy lay it all on the line like that. I think he hit like 6 straight threes, you know, and all
incredibly difficult. Yeah.
Oh my God. I mean, the level of difficulty on those shots. And I mean, you're and I'm going to show them here, but I mean, you're seeing the Nuggets players like just collapse with every make. Like they can't believe it. It's
Austin Rivers is praying for him to miss.
Oh, when he finally missed one, he was like, "Thank you, God! Finally, he missed one." I always do things like, I don't know if you do this, but like with big shots, I like to go back and watch them and look at people's reactions in the crowd or on the coaching staff. Yeah. So with all of Lillard's shots late in that game in the fourth quarter, and then the 2 overtimes, if you go back and you look at those highlights and you look at the Denver coaching staff, like all the different coaches that they had, they're just like throwing up their little folders, things like that. They're just like putting their arms out like, what do we do? What do we do with this guy? So yeah, it was one of the most amazing performances I've ever seen. It's like, the old gunslingers, just going down in a blaze of glory. Like, I'm going to empty every bullet in the chamber and give you everything that I got. And, it was amazing. But I remember that night, and I think we were friends by then on Twitter. And I think we messaged about it just briefly or something like that. But I was just like, I'm just heartbroken for him. I mean, for me too, as a fan. But for me, it was just such a painful loss because had they won that game, I mean, they had a pretty scrappy group that year. And of course, that's the year that the Suns went on to go to the NBA Finals. The Suns swept the Nuggets in the next round. And I think we actually could have given the Suns, quite a good series in that second round as well. So yeah, it was just really painful. I can't believe it's not on your list. But no hate, like, it's all good. I actually like the fact that we have so many different things. But I thought for sure you'd put this on there.
Here's my thinking. One, I'm trying very hard to look at that as a positive, not a negative.
Oh, I see.
Just because, like, Dame, it was just a special performance, one of the best playoff performances of all time.
If we did the other list, it probably would appear on both lists.
Right, yeah.
You're right.
Yeah. But, I mean, the rest of the team went, like, 1 for their last 17 or something, if I'm not mistaken, or 2 for 19. Mm-hmm. It was something ridiculous like that, including two times Robert Covington tried to dunk when he hadn't really dunked much all year and missed both of them. It was just
CJ stepping out of bounds.
To me, that was more of a culmination of all the problems that they had since 2018, which was on my list. And it was like they hadn't addressed a lot of those things. They still had some of the same players they were trying to rely on that didn't step up in previous series. And here you have Dame playing so well, and like they had guys that were, because Jamal Murray was out in that series, right?
Right.
That was when he was hurt, and they had guys like the aforementioned Austin Rivers and Facu Campazzo, who's not even in the league anymore, like was terrible. But like they both made big shots down the stretches of games, and it was just so. But like I felt more like that team was just, based on that performance, I didn't have faith that they would, even if they won that game, were going to do much after that, because the rest of the team just was not pulling their weight that series. And unfortunately,
that was the first time ever that I worried about Lillard leaving Portland, losing, because typically in the history of the league, a player losing a series in that fashion with I mean, there's really never been anything like that kind of long distance accuracy shooting. But just in terms of, a team not being able to get over the hump, a huge game like that, like those are the kind of games that guys leave over. And
he did waiver that offseason.
Yeah, he did.
That was the first time he ever.
And I just remember losing that series in that way was the first time that I started thinking like, oh boy. But anyway, look, I could talk about that for a really long time, but that was my number 4. So, okay, now big boy time, like really getting to the top 3. Okay, let's just do it. What's your number 3 moment?
Well, you already know my number 3 moment. That's Wes Matthews.
That's right.
Achilles.
That's right.
So we can go back more into this, but that team. So you mentioned how good they were playing. That Dallas game was their 5th win in a row, and 4 of those 5 teams were against West powers. So the Mavericks, the Spurs were one of them. I forgot the other 2, but it was all like top in playoff teams. And the Blazers were just rolling. They had one of the better starting lineups in the league. They had just traded for Aaron Aflalo, who was their bench was terrible. But he was supposed to be like their 6th man, and they're finally shoring up that bench a little bit.
Well, and this was like, I mean, the way that this was sold to us was like, this is the go for it move. Like he took out the big ad, in the local paper, like Portland, let's do this and want to bring a championship to Portland, et cetera, et cetera. Go ahead.
And they were zeroing in on that 2nd seed, just a couple games behind at the time. It seemed like it was just inevitable if this team just kept healthy that they were going to be the 2nd seed. And I don't know who that would have ended up made them play, but it was
I can't remember.
It just Wes was the heart and soul of the team. He was Iron Man. He didn't miss games. He played in almost every game.
Ever.
And he was the guy who was always there and you could always count on. And he kept everything together. And he was like our main. I mean, Batum was kind of like this too, but Wes took most of the tough guard assignments. And
great defender, vocal leader, like true leader.
Became a really good 3-point shooter and all that. And Aldridge had gotten hurt. He hurt his thumb earlier in the season, but had been playing through it all year. And then you also knew that his free agency was coming up that offseason. And it went from this team has a pretty decent window if they stay together and just shore up their bench to gone in 1 second.
Wes Matthews.
I think Wesley was in one of those situations where he was looking ahead, knowing that Dirk Nowitzki was the only defender back, Marvin. He might have just taken a misstep on that ankle.
Like a wet spot on the floor, and you can see Matthews hits the deck, holding his ankle.
And all it took was that pop of the Achilles, and he goes down. And I mean, everyone knew the second it happened, the season was over. And it's weird because like he wasn't like the star player or anything, but like the season was over. And then
he was the glue for sure.
And then from then on, Aldridge starts wavering. He reportedly doesn't even fly home on the team playing in the playoffs. It's always like, could that team? I mean, they could have matched up with a lot of teams. They were that good.
Oh, including the Warriors. I remember saying it at the time, and it sounds silly to say now because you're like, well, the Warriors have won 4 titles. I remember thinking that season, man, the Warriors don't want to play us in the Western Conference Finals because they had never really done, that group had never done a great job on LaMarcus. Like LaMarcus, got in his regular numbers against the Warriors.
Yeah.
I felt like we could have really given them an amazing series. They ended up winning the Western Conference that year in 5 games to the Houston Rockets. I mean, they beat the Houston Rockets in 5 games. We surely would have given them a much better series than that. I wonder, though, do you think if the Blazers, if Wes wouldn't have gotten hurt, let's say, Wes doesn't get hurt, they go to the Western Conference Finals, let's give them a 6 or 7 game series against the Warriors, okay? Let's say the Warriors win, go to the finals, win the championship, okay? So we're not like Portland wins the title or goes to the finals. But if they had a deep run in the Western Conference Finals, do you still think LaMarcus leaves? Because I think there's a lot of talk out there that it wasn't entirely like team success stuff as to why LaMarcus left.
I 100% believe that team would have stuck together. And I mean, there is a small chance, I guess.
It's hard to leave a Western Conference Finals team like that if they would have gone that far. That would have been a lot harder.
Yeah. Right. There is a small chance. I mean, he did say he went to Texas to be closer to family and stuff like that, which is understandable. And there is a small chance, Olshey, that was the end of his third season here. And players like Aldridge, Wes, Batum, he resigned, but was already, part of the team. So the only thing I could think of for it to break up would be as if Olshey felt like he wanted to rebuild the team with his own guys, which is a possibility, I guess. But this is the thing. Aldridge, I feel bad saying this, but I don't want to sugarcoat it. The guy's sensitive. It was known. I mean, like he got mad at Brandon Roy because he thought he got snubbed on the road and didn't get asked out to dinner or something when the whole team went, but they apparently went to his room and couldn't find him or something. So it wasn't anything personal or anything, but he thought they didn't like it. Roy didn't like him because of that. And then they eventually were fine and became friends. And then you have this whole thing about him with feeling threatened by Dame's presence as an emerging star, and he wanted to be the number one and all this stuff. And
well, he had felt like the team was all about Roy. Then the team was all about the promise of Odin. Yeah. Is Odin going to get better? So he kind of felt like, hey, people are sleeping.
What about me?
Here. And then when Brandon's career was over, when Odin was gone, now all of a sudden everybody's getting behind the L train. And then, he's seen as the main guy. And then here comes this kid who's amazing and starts hitting all these buzzer beaters. And Dame was not pushing for leadership of the team. This was not a Shaq Kobe situation.
And just like with Roy, they eventually reconciled and apparently become friends or whatever, and talked about how they both regret how they handled that situation. But apparently he got upset over Dame having some billboard right outside Moda Center. That was Adidas. It was Adidas. It wasn't the team that put up a billboard of just Damian Lillard and decided to slight and not have Aldridge as the face of the franchise. That was an Adidas billboard. He was a product of Adidas. Like, it had nothing to do with the team's feelings on him or whatever.
It's so stupid.
And then I heard, like, around the practice facility that entire year, everyone was just like walking on eggshells around him, just didn't want to do anything to even perceive the slightest bit of tension or whatever. But going back to your question, I believe he is so like wishy-washy that he wasn't necessarily lying when he said he wanted to be the best placer ever and stay there. Like, he actually thought that when he said it, but then like he kept changing his mind. So like they would have a down period or whatever before the Flalo trade, and he maybe was like, yeah, I'm out of here after the season. And then they trade for a Flalo and they're playing good and they're winning 5 games in a row. And I could see him being like, oh wait, now I'm going to stay for the rest of my career again,
Yeah.
And I don't think he even knew what he was going to do. And it's like, I don't think it was necessarily a situation where this caused him to leave, but had he stayed healthy, Wes, and that team went on a run in the playoffs and made the Western Conference Finals, man, I just don't see how he would have just been like, see you guys. Because he apparently almost had second thoughts and stayed at the last minute anyway. And then this is why I don't believe that he would leave just because of the family thing, because he almost signed with Phoenix too, which is in Texas. So they came in the last minute and almost signed him. So I just think, and that's why, I mean, you can't trade a player you're close to being the second seed in the West. Like you can't trade that player. So I don't blame Wolshay necessarily for not trading Aldridge in that situation either.
Oh yeah. You're talking about trading him so you don't
like
lose
at the deadline or something. Yeah. So
yeah.
I don't feel like that was ever even a realistic option. I mean, in hindsight, you can say they should have done it, but I just don't get how you could say that. But I think any chance of that happening when Wes went down was just the end of it, and that's why it was so deflating when it happened. Just because you just knew, man, this was such a promising season, and it just went down in a blink of the eye.
That's your number 3, right?
Number 3, yeah. What's your number 3?
Okay, I'm guessing this is not your. Well, no, you only have 2 more to go. Okay, well, obviously we're going to come to this. I'll be curious to see. Okay, you tell me what you think this number 3 is. I'd be curious because you were really fascinated by once we get into our 1, 2.
So my 2 left, I was assuming they'd be your top 2, but I think you have them reversed than me because I just.
But this is my 3. This is my.
I know. From knowing you for years, I would be surprised if this was 3. So, I don't know. Is it the '92 finals or is that 1 or 2?
No.
Okay, then I don't.
It's the loss to the Lakers in 2000.
Really? I just knowing what I know of you, I would have thought this would be number 1.
No.
Oh no. In 2000, really?
2000. The Game 7, Shaq, Kobe, Brian Shaw, who we traded away in the Pippen trade, makes the inconsequential 3 at the end of the third quarter.
I don't want to ruin it, but I was thinking of the other Lakers one, and I think that's going to be your number 1.
Well, we'll see.
We'll see.
Some
suspense there.
Yes. So, yes, the loss to the Lakers in 7 games. Now, is this by any chance your number 2?
It is my number 1.
It is your number 1. Okay. Yep. Well, let's put a pin in it. Okay. We'll talk about it as your number 1. So, obviously, so this is what's going to be interesting, Eric. Here's what we're going to do, because it's very obvious what these last 2 are. Okay. Yeah. So your number 2 is my number 1.
Okay.
And oh no. Oh yeah.
You still have one more.
I still have my 2. Okay. So
what's the one we're missing?
Okay, so let's see. So my 3 is the Lakers beating us in Game 7 in the Western Conference Finals. And then if we went to your number 2, well, let's go. So what's your number 2?
Well, it's going to be your number 1, but what's your number 2?
My number 2 is the Blazers losing to the Bulls in 1992.
Okay, yeah, let's go with that first then.
Okay.
And then we can just talk about the other 2. Yeah.
I was getting confused. It's almost 2 in the morning. Okay, so losing to the Bulls in 1992, that is my number 2 gut punch as a Blazers fan. So this was, after losing in the finals in 1990, after going through an entire season of being considered the odds-on favorite to win the NBA championship in 90-91, obviously the Blazers come up short in 91, and that's when we really start hearing a lot of whispers about the Blazers. They can't hold on to leads. They're not smart. They're dumb. They're going to miss free throws. You had the very famous quote by Phil Jackson in March of 1992, where he said, Portland plays in spurts, but they'll self-destruct. And then, we would subsequently go on to have games like that during that regular season that a lot of people in the media would then point to. so on and so forth. We had a very marquee game against Chicago in March of that season where it was going to be Clyde Drexler against Michael Jordan, and the Bulls ended up destroying us, blowing us out. Nobody came to play that day except for Clyde. And so going into the playoffs that year, you know, we played the Lakers in the first round, kind of exercising some of the demons from the previous year, even though Magic wasn't there. We win that series. We win the second round series against a really tough Phoenix Suns team. We beat them in 5 games. That was really impressive. And then we beat the Utah Jazz in 6 games, go on to the finals. And this was for their careers together, Clyde and Michael, their stats competing against each other were very, very comparable. The season before, 90-91, the Blazers went 2-0 against the Bulls. Had they made it to the finals that year, Portland would have had the home court advantage because they had the best record in the league. Drexler, obviously playing in a small market, didn't get as much attention as Michael Jordan. Go ahead.
Did you have the Sports Illustrated on a collision course?
Of course. Yeah. I had the Sports Illustrated on a collision course and all that stuff. Had, you know, got multiple copies of that and hung it up, you know, at home and stuff like that. So, yeah, you know, Clyde really started to get the national attention that year, which was great. But it really felt like these two teams were on a collision course. It felt like it should have happened the year prior. There's actually, if a couple of things break differently, we could have actually seen the Blazers and Bulls play in the finals for like 3 straight seasons. They could have played each other in 90, could have played each other in 91, could have played each other in 92. So they finally get the matchup in 92. We get this, you know, in game one.
Yeah.
The Blazers win game 2 in Chicago in overtime.
Checked by Grant. Nice play by Kersey. It's a 3-on-1. Drexler, yes, and it counts. A facial served up.
The exact same scenario, actually, as what happened in 1990 in the finals against the Pistons. And I remember thinking, well, okay, like this is perfect. Like we've split the first 2 games and we came home last time to the Pistons and lost all 3 at home. We're not going to let that happen again.
Way.
No way. And I was right.
Kind of, yeah.
But we lost 2 out of 3.
Yeah.
And, you know, the game 3 loss, you know, was just kind of a, you know, Blazers took an early 4-point lead in that game. But then for the most part, Chicago kind of ground down the game. And they ended up winning game 3 kind of comfortably. The Blazers come back in a great game 4 that a lot of Blazer fans remember. Drexler got the great strip on Jordan that I'll probably show right here.
Jordan stripped by Drexler. 3-on-2. Kersey. Porter gave it back. Drexler. Shot from the Coliseum in Portland. Drexler with the pass fake. Nice feed from Kersey.
So the Blazers go on to win that game. They have this massive showdown of a game in game 5 in Portland, where if Portland can take the lead in the series, they'll go back to Chicago for 2 games and really have Chicago on the ropes. And they just lay an egg. They completely lay an egg that game. Jerome Kersey scored the first 2 points. Portland was up 2-0, and then it was over. Like, Chicago never trailed after that. This was the same game where Drexler had the amazing putback that got shown on all the highlights for years, and I'll go ahead and show it right here.
Robinson, double team, got it back out. Here's Porter. Drexler! Oh, what a slam!
Use the timeout to quiet the crowd. The shot by Porter, a miss, but the perfect timing by Clyde to follow.
But that happened when the Bulls were up by like 17 points. So it kind of didn't matter when it happened. But then, Eric, in game 6, Sunday, June the 14th, 1992, the Blazers, for the first time in the series played their brand of basketball.
Mm-hmm.
They played their best game. You got to give them credit, at least through 3 quarters. Played their best game of the series through 3 quarters. And in that third quarter, I mean, they were up on the Bulls at one point by 17 points. They finished the quarter up 15 points. But defensively, they were flying around the court. Chicago couldn't do anything with them. Offensively, they were red hot. At one point, late in the third quarter, they were shooting like 70% in the quarter.
Livingston recovers. Here's passing for 3. Rebounded by Porter. Blazers have to love this style of play, though. Kersey gets it to Drexler. This is Portland's brand of basketball. They have the tempo going in their direction. And it's Jordan putting the move on Porter. Stopped by Drexler. Terry Porter hitting the floor hard. Along with Clyde Drexler. B.J. Armstrong called on the foul.
Just a terrific defensive effort by Clyde Drexler. Jordan goes by the first 2 defenders. Drexler running the floor the whole way, setting this up way behind as far as steps, but the perfect timing, and he covers so much ground to get the block and save what looks to be like a sure score. Great defensive play, particularly with 4 fouls on Clyde Drexler.
Once again, the Blazers control the offensive board.
13 offensive rebounds for Portland.
Terry Porter with 18, and Portland leads 77-60.
And this was on a Sunday, so the Game 7 of the NBA Finals would have been on a Wednesday. And I remember thinking, like, oh my God, we're gonna tie the finals, and it's gonna be 3 days until Game 7. And I'm just picturing like, oh, the USA Today spread of the preview of Game 7, and it was kind of this, oh, by the way, I want to say something really quickly about that finals. I don't know if you remember it, Eric, but Game 1 of the finals, NBC, when they would do their packages before games, that Game 1 of the 1992 NBA Finals had the best, greatest pregame package done by Bob Costas ever.
It's clear now the most important game of the NBA's regular season was March 1st, Portland at Chicago. Not so much for the Bulls' easy victory, but rather for Phil Jackson's bold comment on the eve of the game.
I think this club, Portland, represents a team that plays in spurts, but they'll self-destruct.
The game was never close enough to test Jackson's theory. Chicago rode a glaring overmatch at small forward, Scottie Pippen outscoring Jerome Kersey by 18 points in a 20-point blowout. And the point Michael Jordan made afterward stung all the more. The Bulls had publicly amplified 3 years' worth of doubt about this Portland franchise, and suddenly what had been only whispered around the NBA was now spoken openly. Portland was good, but they lacked the resourcefulness and savvy to win close, important games. And so, for the past 3 months, the Blazers have endured daily questions, not about their shooting or their rebounding, but about their judgment and on-court leadership. Portland has protested occasionally, but the slander has been so caustic, so routine, that the Blazers now know they have only one effective reply.
I just remember watching this thing, and
you're so hyped.
I was so like, just, oh my gosh, I wanted to, like you said, run through a brick wall. And had we won that finals, I feel like that opening would have just been like this legendary opening that you could have put on the Sports Illustrated championship video. That was one thing. I was like, oh, I want them to win so badly so I could get the Sports Illustrated championship video, like the whole thing. And so obviously everybody knows the story. We end up scoring 13 or 14. We end up scoring 14 points in that fourth quarter. Turnovers galore, bad calls galore. The Bulls basically got to do whatever they wanted. Their scrubs. Stacey King was hitting shots. Bobby Hansen was hitting shots. I mean, the things that had to go right, I watched that fourth quarter here recently just for this video, and the things that had to go right for the Bulls to end up even getting back in that game, much less take over the game and win the game. It's not like Jordan went crazy in the quarter. Jordan sat the bench while the bench players brought them back in the game. And then by the time Jordan came back in, he hit a couple of baskets, got to the free throw line a couple of times. Blazers lost their composure, and we ended up losing the series in 6.
The Bulls with the ball and a 2-point lead.
You don't foul now. You dig in and get a stop.
Here's Jordan.
Portland placing 2 players down the floor to try and get a quick hurry-up offense going after this free throw.
4-point. Chicago lead. Drexler was checking. Thought there might have been a timeout remaining. Here's Kersey for 3. Paxson with the rebound. Time running down. The Chicago Bulls have won the NBA championship for the 2nd straight season.
And I've always felt like to have played such a bad finals. I mean, we played 3 just horrendous games. Games 1, 3, and 5 were just horrendous. We didn't play all that great in game 2. We played great down the stretch. And same thing in game 4. And that's what was interesting was the Bulls were winning in blowout fashion, and we were winning the close clutch games that series, which was not the book on us, right?
No.
So, I always felt like people don't look back and realize how close we were to a Clyde Drexler, Michael Jordan Game 7 of the NBA Finals, and I wanted it so badly. And I'll never forget when the Bulls went up 4. And then the Blazers raced down court. Jerome Kersey took a desperation 3 that didn't hit anything. Obviously, Kersey was a 3-point shooter. But I just couldn't believe that it had frittered away that big lead like that and how the game had just flipped on a dime. And it was awful. I did not necessarily feel like it was the end because I felt like we were still young enough to, come back.
Yeah,
and I mean,
naive.
Yeah,
I thought
true.
it was not going to be how it was.
Yeah, I mean, Drexler missed 33 games the following season, as we said, and things started to shift a little bit with them becoming more reliant on younger players like Cliff Robinson, and not traded for Rod Strickland. They got Rod Strickland as a free agent in the 92 summer. So it's not like I necessarily felt like we were out of chances, but it ended up being the last time that we ever made it to the finals. So yeah, that is my number 2. It really hurt. I'll never forget. And I would also say, even though we haven't talked about the 2000, the 2000 West Finals against the Lakers yet, I think this collapse, the 15-point collapse of this game, was worse than the one to the Lakers. I hear everybody wants to talk about the loss to the Lakers, and maybe it's because it's the Lakers, and so we have more of a history with them, and we don't necessarily with the Bulls. I always thought the 15-point coughed-up lead to the Bulls was bigger. Maybe it's because it's the finals, and what was waiting at the end of that was a Game 7, to play and potentially winner. Well, not potentially, but winner take all in that Game 7. But I always thought the 92 fourth quarter collapse was a lot worse than the 2000.
Yeah, I think for me, and we'll get more into this in a second, but for me, most people thought whoever won the 2000 Western Conference Finals was going to win the championship. And that was actually Game 7, not to force a Game 7. So they're both super equally bad. But I still think the 2001 jumps out a little bit more to me. But
in the 2000 case, you still got to go win 4 games. In the 92 case, you just have to win one game.
One game. That's true.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, yeah.
But absolutely, that Portland team in 2000 just wipes the floor with the Pacers. I mean, there's just no doubt, in my opinion.
I mean, yeah. I mean, people just assume that. I don't know.
I mean, the Lakers beat them in 6. I think we would have done the same.
Yeah.
You know. So.
But yeah, the Bulls one. I mean, just from the first half of Game 1 to the no-show to the collapse when it looked like, wow, this team. And where was that earlier in the season or in the series? Why couldn't they play? Why didn't they show up like that earlier in the series? That was the most frustrating part.
I would have loved to have seen the Bulls on their heels in Memorial Coliseum, you know, like play with a 12 to 15 point deficit when that place is going crazy.
Yeah.
Like I wanted to see them deal with that, and we didn't get to see it. So
yeah, I think both 90 and 92 for me, it goes back to Game 3 where, like you mentioned, we had same scenario. We had won Game 2 on the road
in overtime, both games,
and come back with the momentum. If you just get Game 3 at home, you put them down to needing to win at least one of the next 2 at your place, and then you still have several chances to put them away. And just the Game 3s of both of those series were just so frustrating. But yeah,
and very similar games. I mean,
yeah.
Very similar games. It's so crazy. Well, let's trudge on.
All right. So since you had this at 3 and I have it at 1, that averages out to be 2. And your 1 and my 2 averaged out to be 1.5. So we'll go to my number 1 first.
Okay.
And save your number 1 for last. I think that's fair.
That sounds good.
And we just kind of started talking about this, but my number 1, your number 3, was it?
Yes.
As the Blazers blowing a double-digit fourth quarter lead in Game 7 of the 2000 Western Conference Finals. And just to set the scene, the Blazers get down 3-1 in the series. This is the year they had Pippen and Steve Smith and Rashid, Damon Stoudemire, just Arvydas Sabonis, Brian Grant, Jermaine O'Neal, Greg Anthony. This team was absolutely loaded, and they were.
Did we even say Steve Smith?
I said it. Yeah. I think
you said it. Okay. Yeah. I mean, it's just amazing that roster.
They had Bonzi Wells. It was like a young, good player, and just all kinds of good players. But so Blazers end up.
Jermaine O'Neal on the bench.
Similar to what we were talking about. The Blazers, don't play well in a couple of the games and find themselves down 3-1 in the series.
Well, 1-1 coming back to Portland, lay an egg for 2 games.
Yep. But then, this is when it had switched to 2-2, 1-1-1. So it wasn't 3 games in a row.
In the conference playoffs, it was always 2-2-1-1. Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. So the Blazers, like you said, lose both games at home in games 3 and 4. Just devastating.
There's the Pippen pulling down all the towels because he was so ticked off. Yeah.
But then they go to LA, win Game 5, and then I camped out on the streets of Portland to get tickets for Game 6.
Cool.
Was lucky enough to go to that game. That's probably the best game I've ever been to in terms of, because I didn't go to any of the finals games or anything, but
okay.
Western Conference Finals Game 6, that's pretty big, right? I went to Game 3 of the 2019 Western Conference Finals, but we were down 2-0 at the time, and we got swept in that series, so not quite as.
Wait, Game 3 of what? What year?
The 2019 Western Conference Finals, where we got swept by the Warriors.
Oh, the Warriors. I was thinking the Nuggets the round before. Oh, okay. Well, so you went to the first game. I
was at the 4 overtime game against the Nuggets in that round. Yeah, that was emotionally draining.
I was gonna say, what was that like?
I felt like I played afterwards. Like I was like so tired, like just emotionally drained. And like I just wanted the game to be over. I didn't really care who won at that point. I cared who won. I'm joking.
I just remember thinking, man, whoever loses this game, this is going to be a really hard game to come back from. Mm-hmm. And then of course Denver did.
Yeah,
but
they won.
I was just like,
that was game 3, and then they won game 4.
Yeah, exactly.
But anyways, so the Blazers end up playing really well in game 6, win at home, force a game 7 in LA. And the first half was pretty, I mean, the Blazers played okay. They played decent, but they just had a brilliant third quarter, just completely shut the Lakers down.
The ball was hopping around.
Yeah.
Steve Smith against Harper. Fadeaway jumper.
See the confusion of Portland right now. They're not sure where they want to go with the ball. Deep shot.
Here is Wallace into the lane for the jumper.
Get it, then he stops working. Banuel
against Bryant to lay it in. Pippen gets it underneath to Wallace. Bill, you made the point earlier that Portland was doing a better job as Smith unleashes another 3, and he's on fire now.
They have at least 5 fouls. I see Shaq is getting frustrated. He needs to get out of that position of double teaming Wallace.
This is a 15-point game.
You've got to start involving Shaquille O'Neal, and Portland's not letting him.
Stunning. How big is that?
They were scoring at will, and this is a game where points were kind of at a premium. But late in the third quarter, Blazers up 16. Like, you just have visions of they're going to the finals. They're going to win the championship. This is like
they're going to host. They're going to host the finals.
This was in June of 2020 or 2000. So I was days away from turning 21. I was going to have the biggest celebration ever for the championship or whatever. So late in that third quarter, with a little over 4 seconds left, Brian Shaw banks in a 3-pointer. Seemed kind of meaningless at the time, but
Shaw tried to provide it and did, overshot it.
But he cuts the lead to 13. Okay. Then Steve Smith makes a runner, banks in a runner on the first possession of the fourth quarter to put the lead back up to 15. Okay. Kobe scores a bucket, and then Bonzi Wills hits 2 free throws to put it back to 15 points, right? 10 minutes, 28 seconds left in the game. Blazers are up 15.
Yeah.
They have it, right?
They're total control.
They're playing amazing. They're like the Lakers. I think
Shaq had like 10 points to that point or something.
And I believe at the end of the third quarter, the Lakers only had 58 points or something. Like, they were not scoring.
Yeah, something like that.
And so 10:28 left in the game. The Blazers would not score a single point until 2:58 left in the game.
Oh, was it that bad? Oh, God.
7.5 minute drought that saw the Lakers come all the way back to take the lead.
And a lot of these, if I'm remembering correctly, were Rasheed misses, right? And good looks. Just missed shots.
Rimmed out, just missed shots. There was a couple
turnovers.
We're doing
the Terry Stotts, Eric. We're doing the we just missed shots.
So all in all, Portland only scores 13 points in the fourth. They shoot 5 of 23 from the field in that quarter. And this was after they looked like they were the best team in the league, the first 3 quarters. And then it all culminates in what is my number one most depressing or worst personal Blazer moment, and that is the Kobe to Shaq alley-oop dunk, and I think that put them up 6 at the time.
Portland has 3 timeouts left. The Lakers have 2. Bryant to Shaq. Seconds left. LA has outscored Portland 25 to.
And Shaq's just going crazy up the court, and
I hated them. I was in Los Angeles already at the time. God, I hated their guts. I did so badly. There were Laker flags everywhere. I could hear people screaming in the apartments around me, and I was just like, oh, this sucks. Oh, I hated it so much. Now, wait, the lob is worse for you than the shrug?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, okay.
I was a little older, and because I was 13 with the shrug, or almost to be 13, so it was bad, but like I just remember, I don't know, it was just the Blazers. I admit this all the time on Blazers Uprise, but I wear my heart on my sleeve. I let the emotions of the game get to my life, like it affects me. So that's
why everybody loves you.
I had a girlfriend at the time. She was like disgusted by how pissed off I was at the end of this game or during the game. Like I was just fuming and like just like depressed and like throwing stuff and like just having a complete meltdown. And she's like, "Who are you?" like type of thing. And yeah, so just didn't understand. Earlier
it's never good if you're getting comments like, well, they played a good game, or maybe next year, and you're like, you don't understand. You don't understand these things.
I don't. I'm sure you obviously remember this, but so Pippen had hit a 3 against the Jazz earlier in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Just a huge 3, and
it sealed it for them in Game 5.
Yeah, and I did this jump kick thing in the air, and I accidentally kicked a hole in the wall. I was so excited. Like it wasn't like out of anger. It was like an excited, like, yeah. And so like I had been through the emotions in that playoff. So I think that's maybe why it stands out a little more to me, is just,
okay.
I was like, because I was at Oregon State that year. And,
I mean, you're 20 years old. You're like at the height of your testosterone level and all that.
I had convinced it was just far enough away to where I convinced my roommates to chip in for League Pass. And so I'd watched like every Blazer game, and I had watched like so much basketball that season. So because this was back when this was kind of in the early stages of that, where believe it or not every game was always available on TV and stuff like that. Right. So like this is like amazing. I can watch every NBA game, you know. So yeah, that whole season was just, I was just so into it and just so emotionally invested. I told the story before about how in preseason they had a preseason game at Oregon State that I went to.
Yeah.
And so like it just started from the hype of, oh, we got Schrempf and Smith and Pippen and just that whole season. Man, just that collapse. I mean, the Blazers are known for their collapses, right? But that one to me was the worst one of them all. Just the devastating moment. It was like you had several minutes of, wow, they're really going to do this. They're really going to the championship. They're really like, it's going to happen. And
you're like licking your chops.
Yeah.
For the Pacers. And I was imagining like plays like Blazers of the past, like who's going to be sitting in the crowd for game one, like all that kind of stuff, like, counting your chickens before they hatch, right? Yeah, I think for me, I think the reason that it's not higher and the reason that I look at the 92 fourth quarter collapse as more painful was because that 2000 team, even though, we traded for Rasheed very early in his career, after his rookie season in Washington, Arvydas was our draft pick. Stoudemire was, a hometown player that we brought back via trade. But, you have players like Pippen, you have players like Steve Smith, who I liked both players, and we talked about our affinity for Steve Smith previously. So really like Smitty a lot, like so many of the guys, but it was like fantasy league team a little bit. It was a collection of players. There was a mercenary aspect to what we were doing that season, whereas the 92 team for me was more organically constructed.
Of course.
I mean, of course, you have the Buck Williams trade, the Danny Ainge trade, but, we saw, you see Clyde and Terry grow up together. Same for Jerome. Duckworth hits a game-tying shot in game 2 of that series. Like, just all of these. By the way, Duckworth played 18 minutes in game 6. I was looking at the stats from game 6. The Blazers, so I think if I'm remembering correctly, the Blazers shot 2 of 6 from 3-point range for the game. That tells you about the 3-pointers. I think the Bulls shot like 1 for 7 or something like that. I mean, it's just crazy, how the 3-pointer has changed the game. But yeah, so I think that's why 92 hurt more for me, was just because it's guys who were true, like, true Blazers. So I think that's why it was so high for me.
It's funny you say that because I'm usually the same way, but for some reason, this particular team, like if Dame wins a title with Portland, that'll be more important than any of these other ones. But yeah, like Portland
and they the entire roster could change, Eric. It could be Lillard, Sharp, and then like 13 new guys.
Right.
And if they won a title, I'd be like, no, this is the most important.
This is Dame's. Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly.
But yeah, I don't know. It's just something about that season.
I love that season.
Here's the other thing. Okay, so I mean, I hated Jordan, but also like respected him as the best player ever.
You appreciate him, for sure.
I freaking hated the Lakers. So it goes back to what we'll talk about in a minute. But even before that, they had our number in the playoffs all the time, right? Until that series you talked about in 92. Is that the only? No, we beat him in 77, right?
The Lakers?
Yeah.
Yeah.
In the Western Conference Finals then. So 77 and 92, I think, are the only years we beat them in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Is that correct? We lost them every other time we played.
Yep.
So it was more, and like I said, I wasn't alive in 77, so it had been just a bloodbath pretty much every time.
Well,
we played the Lakers.
And you're in the same division.
Yeah.
You're in the Pacific Division together for the longest time. So yeah, always looking up at them.
Once again, respected Magic and stuff, but hated those guys. Like,
oh God,
man, just like, no, they were so good. Like they would just take your heart out. And
Lakers won the Pacific Division for 9 straight years.
And then,
like,
when they traded for Shaq, or however that went down, I know it's kind of
he agreed to go there,
kind of free agent, kind of sign and trade. Like, I don't know, but like I thought Shaq was so cool on the Magic, and him and Penny Hardaway and stuff. But then when he became a Laker, it was like, no, screw these guys. And then they get Kobe, and then they get Phil Jackson to come, right? And it's like people were just anointing them as like the next big thing. And once again, here we are talking about how the Blazers could have stopped all that from happening. They probably break up because that was several years of them not being able to do anything in the playoffs or not getting that championship.
The gatekeepers. We have been the gatekeepers and just said right on through here to history. Go ahead.
We could have just stopped that. Like that, there was all these questions. Could like
and
Kobe
they were
and Shaq can't win together.
They were going to pick Shaq over Kobe.
Yeah.
Then.
Yep. They can't win together. They're not compatible. And that's why that alley-oop hurt so much, was because it was, of course, Kobe to Shaq, right?
Together,
Yeah, and they're all excited, and that was kind of like their moment where they became the guys, right?
I felt like we have created quite a few monsters.
Right. So
before.
Mm-hmm. And so there's just something about, because I didn't like Shaq once he went to the Lakers, because he would basically just turn around and throw his elbow into someone. And
oh my God.
He was so tough to referee, but like he also just threw his weight around, and then like poor Arvidas would just stand there and he'd get called for fouls, and even though he was the one getting elbowed in the face or whatever, and which is like a flagrant 2 now if he played today, but like back then it was like a foul on you for getting elbowed in the face. And then Kobe was just, man, so conceited and cocky, and just had this bravado about him that just, if he wasn't on your team, you just freaking hated him. And I ended up, towards the end of his career, turning that into like a deep respect for Kobe and his game and stuff like that. And he's a great player. And that,
it's so interesting that early arrogance of him also came with an insane work ethic.
Yeah.
That you had to respect. Mm-hmm. That was not, there are some guys out there that will have a reputation of, oh, this guy's in the gym at 3:00 and all that kind of stuff. But Kobe lived it. Like Kobe actually was that guy. And when you started to see the kind of injuries that he would play with, and excel, like one of the things that I always remember about Kobe, and obviously, I mean, I live in Los Angeles, so the day that he tragically died, I actually remember that day very specifically. Went outside, and it was very murky around where I live, and he flew right over there's a zoo not far from where I live in Glendale, and there's a zoo that they showed his helicopter flight path went right over, so like literally would have been right over my place. And so whenever I think about him, one of the cool things that I ever saw was Matt Barnes when he was on the Magic trying to intimidate Kobe and acted like he was going to hit him in the face with the ball. Kobe didn't even move. Yeah. And I just remember going, okay, I hate him, but that's kind of badass.
Cool. Yeah,
that was really cool.
Have you seen like the alternate angle where it doesn't look like he put it in his face at all?
No, I haven't.
Not to ruin that moment for you, but
please.
Apparently there's like another angle that shows that he didn't even go in his face. It was off to the side, but
okay.
But I don't know. It's better if it's told the other way.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I'll actually look for that. That'd be cool to see. Oh, he wasn't anywhere near him, but yeah, I mean, I look, living here during those 3 championships that the Lakers won, and then the 2 that they won with Kobe and Pau Gasol after they traded Shaq. As a Blazers fan, it was just sheer misery. But
I didn't want the Lakers to win Kobe's other 2 after Shaq left, but when I started. I did not want them to win, obviously.
Okay.
Like, screw the Lakers. I never want them to win. But that's when I started to respect Kobe a lot more, and my kind of feelings started to change on him as a player, just seeing how he handled that once building kind of his own team, versus the Kobe Shaq teams. But
I gotta say,
couldn't stand them together, and I couldn't stand Phil Jackson. But going back to the '92 finals and all that crap, So
I gotta say, I had a pretty ridiculous reaction to Kobe scoring 60 points in his final game.
Yeah.
Like, I was so excited. I was so tickled. And maybe that was because I was just a few months past my spinal fusion.
Yeah.
So here I was.
On medicine.
Well, no. Like I'm hurt and I'm old. And here's Kobe hurt and old, and he's showing that, hey, I can still reach back and do it if I need to. And I was like, that's right, Kobe. That's right. You tell him. Like, because I was feeling in a similar position myself. Yeah. So, the Lakers have been a constant source of pain and misery. And on this Father's Day, when we started the pod, we have now gone into Monday, but on this Father's Day, it is so appropriate that we are talking about a team that has basically been our daddies for many, many years. And the last thing in the world that I want to do is talk about the Lakers anymore. So let's move on the list.
Let's go to number one then and talk about the Lakers more.
Okay.
All right.
So my number one.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I just have to ask you a question. Okay.
Sure, please ask me whatever you want.
Is the moment Magic at the end or Cliff Robinson? Which one hurts more? We'll talk about both, obviously.
Cliff hurts more.
Magic with the ball. Left side, double team Magic. Ball batted away. Robinson. Porter. Jerome Kersey to Robinson. They dropped the ball on a 3-on-1 break. They had a chance to take the lead.
Yeah.
Cliff hurts more. Okay, so let's set the stage.
Yeah. I have the play-by-play. Do you want me to?
Huh?
I have the play-by-play.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Okay. So a little over a minute left. Blazers down by 3.
Game 6 of the Western Conference Finals. Blazers at Lakers. Yeah, I was going to set the stage with that.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
All right. So yeah, Game 6 of the Western Conference Finals. This is in 91. The 90-91 season was the Blazers' best season of all time, 63-19 record.
Yep.
They were so freaking good. This was the year they had just come off the finals loss to the Pistons. This was going to be their year, the culmination. Like you talked about before, Pistons don't make it back. This is going to be the Bulls' first time there, so they have to go through us now. It's our turn, and then they will have to beat us eventually. So yeah, the Blazers
lose game 1. Lose game 1.
Yeah, go through the first 5 games. You can do that.
So just quickly, Blazers lose game 1 of the Western Conference Finals against the Lakers. Stop me if you've heard this before. They had a commanding 14-point lead late in the third quarter.
No way.
That they frittered away with the bench unit at the start of the fourth quarter not being able to score at all. There were a couple of air balls that I remember specifically. Lakers come back, make the game close. Blazers put the starters back in the game. It basically is a nip-tuck game back and forth. There's the classic Lakers running out the shot clock with a 3-point lead. The Blazers are desperately trying to play defense to get the ball back, to try to go down the court and tie the game up. And the Lakers whip the ball around and get it to Sam Perkins, who dunks as the shot clock expires. If the shot was good, it wasn't after the clock. Perkins dunks, put the Lakers up 5 with under 10 seconds to go. You just knew that, okay, the game's over. Lakers take home court advantage. Blazers come back, win in game 2. And then they go to Los Angeles for games 3 and 4, a place that the Blazers had won twice in the regular season. They had won twice at the Lakers, and once in March of that year came back from a 21-point deficit in the third quarter to the Lakers to win that game outright. So it's not like going to the Lakers and playing in Los Angeles was this juggernaut where the Blazers were intimidated to go to LA to play. But they go to the Lakers for games 3 and 4. They just get curb stomped. I mean, it was not even close. And so the Blazers go down 3 games to 1, come back to Portland for game 5. I always say, if you're down 3-1 in a series and you're coming home to play game 5, it is almost the most predictable game in all of NBA basketball. The team that is down 3 games to 1 at home for game 5 almost always wins that game, because the road team knows they've got 2 more games in hand, including the targeted game of game 6, where they're going to try to lock the series up. The Blazers win game 5. They go to game 6, and I'll go ahead and let you take it over from here. Game 6.
So game 6 was a competitive game. Blazers found themselves down 3 with a little over a minute left. When out of nowhere, Clyde Drexler steals a pass by James Worthy and
I'll show it right here.
Takes it down, easy 2 points, cuts the lead to 1. The very next defensive play, Magic Johnson gets in trouble, throws a pass that gets tipped by Buck Williams. Terry Porter chases it down. They go on a 4-on-1 fast break. Porter dumps the ball off to a trailing Jerome Kersey. This is your favorite play in Blazer history, Rich.
Yeah.
Jerome Kersey hands it off to a wide open Cliff Robinson standing next to the basket. And
it's an easy dunk.
It's an easy dunk.
Yeah.
They're about to take the lead with under a minute left in LA in game 6. And somehow the ball just goes right by Cliff Robinson, right out of his hands, out of bounds. And the Blazers end up next defensive possession. Yeah, you got to show that too, unfortunately.
Oh, I'll show it, and I'm actually going to make it worse.
Yeah.
Because the person who knocked the ball away was actually Cliff.
Yeah.
Cliff slaps the ball away from Magic's pass, and then they get out on the break. And you got to remember, these are the Blazers, right? The Blazers on the court are Drexler, Porter, Kersey, Buck Williams, and Cliff Robinson. Okay? Yeah. The 4-on-1 fast break, a 4-on-1 fast break does not include Clyde Drexler, who is like one of the greatest finishers in the history of the game. So, unfortunately, you don't have him there to finish. Go ahead.
But Clyde's not in the uh-oh poster either. That's Terry Buck and
it's true. That was a Nike poster too. They weren't going to let an Avia guy be on the Nike.
I know, but this is the scary thing, you know. You got Terry, Buck, Clyde, Cliff coming on a fast break. There's no way they stopped this, and somehow we stopped it ourselves.
Well, and actually on YouTube, and I'll show this too. There's the Chick Hearn call of the play.
Yeah. Oh, I watched that. Yeah.
Yeah, and Chick actually says when the steal is made, here they go into the lead. And then even Chick Hearn, the Lakers announcer, the homer, is completely stunned that the Blazers have turned this thing over.
Half to play. Magic Johnson dribbling the ball with 13 in the 24. Goes into Perkins. This next shot is monumental. 10 on the clock. Perkins out to Magic. Magic to Worthy. Worthy with 5 on the clock to Magic. Stolen. Worthy threw it away. Drexler scores. We talked about the Lakers not being very good at the end of quarters. See what we mean? 89-88. Great play by Drexler. Great play.
Yeah, you can't say nothing else.
1:08 to play. And the Lakers with Magic handling the ball. Magic throws it away. It's knocked down. Porter steals it. Here they go into the lead. They're down the middle underneath. They throw it out of bounds. I don't believe it. I don't believe it. First of all, I cannot believe the Los Angeles Lakers playing this poorly.
He says something like the Lakers have given them the game and somehow they're still winning or something. But so the Blazers.
And by the way, I don't ever remember. I feel like this was. I can't ever remember a playoff moment for Cliff Robinson where anybody really questioned that he did anything wrong.
Yeah.
I feel like this was the first play in his career. And Eric, this is going to sound so stupid because it's basketball, right? You make a mistake, you move on. But I feel like, in a weird way, I felt like Cliff never overcame this play. Yeah. I know that
pressure moments. Yeah, I could see that.
I think that's kind of crazy to say, stupid to say, but I just always felt like in future seasons when he did not perform, it became a little, and I mean, side note, just always, rest in peace to Cliff Robinson. Cliff Robinson, great citizen for the city of Portland.
Of course.
Nothing of a character standpoint about Cliff.
Yeah.
Right. But in terms of on the court stuff, like, this was the first of, Cliff, come on. Like, whether it's an untimely technical or something like that, this was like the first moment that I ever can remember where it's like, Cliff, you cost us. Like, I don't ever remember Cliff costing the team a game. Now, that's also his second season. He's becoming more of a contributor. He's finishing games where Duckworth was not, like,
second year, and you're in a minute left in the Western Conference Finals on a fast break.
Yeah, you're asking a lot of a young guy. So it's not to besmirch Cliff, but I just felt like, I felt like he never really overcame that. But anyway, so go ahead. So
I never overcame it either. So I don't blame him.
And me neither. It's my number one. So we don't even. But the game is not over at that point. So the Lakers call timeout to gather themselves,
right?
And then they end up
turn the ball over 2 times in a row,
and they end up getting a very, very, like, I'm kind of looking at it sideways call in the lane where they end up getting 2 free throws.
Vlade Divac makes both.
Yeah, makes both. Then the Blazers come back down the court. Terry Porter ends up making a crazy bank shot.
Here comes Drexler. There goes Porter. Either one could have got it. Porter's got it in three-point country. Dribbling, stop, top of the key. Stop, pump, shoot, 18-foot jumper. Banks it in. He missed the shot by a foot, and it banked in.
And then the Blazers have one of their finest defensive stands of the entire season. And they get a 24-second shot clock violation.
Magic Johnson with the ball. The Blazers are going to have it again, and they got a timeout left. Magic Johnson backing in. Out to Perkins. Perkins to the dribble. Stop it after 1 bounce. Give to Magic. 5 on the clock. You got to get a shot. Magic's pass under to Vlade. Puts it up. No, it's blocked. Rebound at 24 expires. Great block shot. Sensational block shot. Their 7th block of a shot in this game. And it was Kersey with 12 seconds. 12 and a half seconds left. The Blazers will get the last shot, and they'll probably win this game now. They're in great shape to win it. 91-90.
They have the ball with 12 seconds left, and Chick Hearn famously predicts that they're now going to take the lead and win the game.
Yep.
And so Blazers call timeout. They put the ball in Clyde's hands, and we should also say something very quickly about Clyde. Clyde did not have a great game up until the fourth quarter. Mm-hmm. And then in the fourth quarter, there was a stretch, Eric, of about 4 buckets in a row where Drexler just took over the game.
Drexler takes Worthy to the hoop and scores. Scores it. And Drexler up with a 2-on-2. Drexler against Magic. And he gets it from one end to the other. To Robinson. Short. Look at Drexler fight for that second chance, and he scores. And Drexler really taking it upon himself. He got the spot up, but couldn't hit. A little short, and there again, that ankle has to be bothering him. Drexler all the way. We have a new game. And for both teams, a season now, 3:47 long.
Look at the eyes of Drexler, and that tells you that he was not going to give up. Comes in down the lane. You see the Lakers just give him the lane, and he rolls it in.
The double team. Here's the open man with 4. Stolen by Drexler. It's a 1-point game. 23 for Clyde on this steal that pulled the Blazers within 1.
And it was the will of Drexler not to give up when it looked like the Trailblazers might not have a chance.
like getting a rebound and like finishing 1-on-4 against the Lakers. I remember there was a very I think it was tied at 83. So the Blazers were down 2. Drexler goes full length against 4 Lakers, ties the game at 83. It just seemed like his athleticism and his will late in that fourth quarter were propelling the Blazers to be in a position to win the game. And then they inbound to Clyde, and they ran a play that we've seen 1,000 times.
Yep.
And they give the ball to Drexler. They run a back screen for Porter. Porter's wide open and just misses the shot.
It's right on line, just hits the back of the rim.
Robinson will inbound to Terry Porter. Terry Porter to Clyde Drexler. He's been the man. Drexler on a drive. Drexler over to Porter. Porter for the win. It's no good. Rebound, Magic Johnson. Throws the ball down the floor. Here comes the horn. And 1/10 of a second remaining to be played on the clock as the ball rolled out of bounds.
Right on line. And you know, I have to say, since the Blazers ended up losing that game, we were really, as NBA fans, not Blazers fans, but NBA fans, there is a difference. But as NBA fans, we were robbed one of the cooler moments in NBA history by the time clock operator not quite understanding what had just happened.
Oh, yeah.
Because the clock actually stopped for a little bit.
Oh, and it didn't matter though. It's still.
It didn't, right? But when the ball rolls out of bounds, it's 1 second. But it should have ran out with the ball on the court rolling out of bounds.
Yeah.
Because the clock operator stopped the clock because I think they thought there was a foul.
Yeah.
And there wasn't a foul.
Well, okay, so going back, this is what happened. So the ball rims off. So it's from the side, but it's right on line. Hits off the back of the rim. Bounces to Magic Johnson. I think the Blazers try to foul him quick because they're still only down 1. There's 3 seconds left. If they foul him, they get the ball back with a chance to tie with a 3 still. So before they can get to him, he lobs the ball up in the air, and he gets it just past where anyone is, and you just watch this ball bounce down the court. And then, as you said, somewhere along the way, the clock stops.
Yeah.
And then it starts rolling down. It still isn't out of bounds yet. And then it starts back up again, all in the same. It's like the longest 3 seconds of all time, in my opinion. Like, in my whole life, this is the longest 3 seconds.
It's like your hopes and dreams are just rolling out with the clock. Yeah.
And so you just watch this ball bounce down the court, and that's the end of the Blazers' best season ever.
And then there's 0.1 seconds on the clock. Buck Williams, takes the inbound pass. He throws it full length of the court. There's really there's nothing the Blazers really could do except a lucky tip, or there was never going to be an over the back foul call in that situation.
It's not going to be a legal shot.
The Lakers go to the finals in Chicago.
So Blazers lose. Danny Ainge said it best in the Running Down a Dream video that came out that summer. It said, I think we had a bad weekend that cost us the season. The best team in the NBA is upset, done for the season. And that's how it felt. And then you go on and you watch the finals, and you watch the Bulls, just decimate the Lakers in 5 games.
The Lakers look old.
Yeah,
they look completely different than they did in that series. I think we took a lot out of them. Obviously, they had to give everything they had to win this series. But it was just that was kind of like the end of the Lakers era of domination throughout the 80s.
And for us, it was the beginning. When you're coming up, right, before you lose, before you cost yourself, you have all this positive momentum as a team working in your favor. And once you stumble and really stub your toe, famously, then the whispers are going to start, you know? And I felt like we were always, now we're not only battling against the league and trying to win a championship and accomplish things, but now we're trying to deal with naysayers. We're trying to fight the narrative. We're not smart. We can't hold on to a big lead. Now, some of those things were valid,
true. Yeah.
obviously. But at the same time, those Portland teams were never great shooting teams. So if you have a team that is high on athleticism and defense and things like that, you're not only going to cough up a lot of big leads, but you're also going to come back from a lot of big deficits. We talked about the Lakers having a 21-point lead on us late in the third quarter in that 91 season, and the Blazers came all the way back to win it. And they did that a lot. I mean, they would always be at risk of eating up your big lead that you had. So, you know, you have to take the good with the bad with a team like that. But I felt like had we taken care of business with the Lakers that year and possibly not traded away Drazen Petrovic to make our bench so pathetic in that series, you know, I would have loved to have seen what a Portland championship would have done for Clyde Drexler, for Terry Porter, for Jerome Kersey, just like being a champion and not having to come up against that pressure of you guys can never get it done, et cetera, et cetera. Like, I would have loved to have seen what being champions would have done to that team, because like that 90-91 season, they played like champions. I mean, they played with that air of we're the best team in the league. Like, you know, we're the next team to ascend to the title. It's been the Lakers' time. It's been the Celtics' time. It's been Detroit's time. It's our time now. And losing that series, which was something nobody was picking them to do, losing that series was really the first time where I think they themselves had some self-doubt creep in. And even though they made it all the way back to the finals in 1992, you know, we see some of those same issues and doubts rear their head in Game 6 of the 92 finals that we talked about. So, you know, it's just amazing how quickly these things can flip. And but I just remember being so sad after that Game 6 loss. I mean, it hurt so badly. And to you know, obviously the Cliff play isn't the end all be all. They still had opportunities, you know, but to get a defensive stop and to get out on the fast break, which that team was known across the league as the best fast breaking team in the league, more than Chicago, more than anybody else. You did not want to get into an open court game with the Blazers. They'll dunk all over you, et cetera, et cetera. And so for us to create offense with our defense, which we did all the time back then, and then get on a 4-on-1 break, and it's not even a defensive play that costs us. We just, you know, mishandle the ball and it goes out of bounds.
Wasn't a bad pass or anything, or too low of a pass, or
no, it was right there. I mean, there are times where I'm like, why didn't Jerome just throw it up like a lob pass, you know, because Cliff could jump out of the gym,
soft,
and the whole thing. But you know, who knows? But yeah,
or Terry could have lobbed it to him instead of passing it back to Kersey.
Yeah, I think Terry's pass back was in total anticipation of Jerome finishing the play. I don't think Terry was doing the hockey assist.
Yeah.
You know, like, let me get it to Jerome, he can get it to Cliff. Like, I think Terry just thought Jerome was gonna, you know, do one of those patented one hand potential and one hammer through on the break. I think that's probably what he was thinking. So yeah, it still stings. You know, anytime I'm thinking about the channel or those Blazer Drexler teams, they made it to the finals in 90. They made it to the finals in 92. And I'm always like, yeah, but our best team, like that was our best representative, and they didn't even get to make it to the finals.
Yeah, I was like, what? Like, they made the finals the year before. This doesn't make any sense. And like I was talking about earlier, the Magic Magic Johnson and the Lakers looked flat and old in the finals.
Yeah.
And so you always wonder.
I think Worthy got hurt too.
Yeah. If Portland wins Game 6, do the Lakers even have anything left in the tank coming back to Portland? I think it might have been a situation where the Blazers just cruise. Obviously, we'll never know, but like it felt like
they were gonna knock their doors off.
Yeah.
If they came back to Portland for Game 7, I mean, you come back from a 3-1 deficit to the Lakers, and you got Game 7, and Worthy was already hurting. Like Worthy was having some issues with his ankle at the time, and that would have been a quick turnaround in Portland, because I believe back then that was on a Thursday night. Game 7 would have been Saturday afternoon. Yep. I mean, it would have been amazing. So okay, so those are each of our 10. Show us on the doll where the Blazers hurt you lists.
We did it.
We did it. A lot of people, we wanted to do this because a lot of people on the channel were like, these topics are depressing or things like that. Yeah. And as we said before, talked about before, like the only reason these moments hurt so much is because we love this team so much.
Yeah.
And there have been so many moments. I mean, we talked about in all of these moments that we've each listed, there were so many things to get excited about. I mean, even going back to the announcers, like Sean Lee was, Vin Scully. He was Chick Hearn. Like he should have been able to do whatever he wanted to do. If he wanted to say, hey, I just want to call the second quarter of games from now on.
Yeah, right.
He should have been able to do it,
Every fourth home game for 5 minutes, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, but so even in all of these moments that come with some pain attached to them, it's because there's so much good on the flip side. Like, in 2019, the Blazers looking so good and having that hope that they're going to get over the hump. Same thing with 2015 with Wesley getting hurt. Like, these moments hurt because of the flip side, the good that came with it as well. So having a little bit of that perspective, I think, is always healthy. Well, listen, I'm gonna wrap it up. That's gonna do it for this edition of Rip City Retro. Eric, thank you so much for making the time to do this today. We want to mention again, click like, share, subscribe. It really helps the channel. Subscriptions are up and they're free. So really appreciate that. We want to hear from you guys. Eric, go ahead. Make your pitch for people telling us what they should comment in the comments below.
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you to everyone for watching. Really appreciate all of you. And yeah, like Rich said, it's been real fun to just hear all of your thoughts. So if you're a younger fan and don't have as much history as we talked about, still give your few most depressing or worst personal memories as a Blazer fan so far. I would love to read all of your comments, and I hope you guys enjoyed the show.
Yeah, and I mean, everybody has to start somewhere, right? Like we don't have those connections to those late 70 teams like some of our subscribers do. Some of our subscribers have been with the Blazers since the franchise started, which is amazing. So we don't besmirch any young fan out there who may be brand new, or relatively brand new to the team. Maybe the 2019 run to the Western Conference Finals was like your big disappointment moment. And hey, we all have to start somewhere. So we totally get it. Like we don't supersede your fandom just because we have more scars all over us from all these years of being Blazer fans. Like, we all start somewhere, but I think we're all unified in our love and appreciation for Damian Lillard. This is a big week coming up. Hope it ends the right way. I think we'll learn a lot. Well, first off, there'll be a lot of BS to sift through this week, but I think when we see what the Blazers end up doing with that number 3 pick, if we see the pick made, there's going to be a lot of speculation about that. If we see the pick moved, obviously it's going to be a matter of what we get for it. I think any move that you see, if the Blazers trade that pick, it's got Damian Lillard's fingerprints all over it, because I don't think the team's going to make any move with that pick. That's a good point. But I don't think they're going to make any move with the 3rd pick that Dame has not blessed. So if the team ends up making a move, that is a very good sign if you were someone who wants to see Dame stay in Portland. Having said all of that, please click like, share, subscribe on the video, and also go over to Blazers Uprise. If you have not checked out Blazers Uprise with Eric and Tori, these guys do Herculean work doing 3-hour podcasts, much like this one might end up being based on how long we've talked.
5 hours.
Sounds good. Well, that is going to do it for us today. I will be doing more Rip City Retro Extras, which are basically just killing time until Eric is free again. All of these topics are probably, with the exception of maybe the announcer one, we might do some deep dives in the future on, say, the 92 finals or the 90 finals, so on and so forth. But that is going to do it for today. Thank you all for subscribing and for clicking like and all of your wonderful comments. So definitely comment below on your biggest painful Blazer memories. Show us on the doll where the Blazers hurt you. And that is going to do it. So for Eric Brandt, I am Rich Finley. And the only thing I have to say this week is,
wherever you may be, good night, everybody.
Hey, thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, click the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.